In our last video we were talking about functions. Well, we don't have a function here, but let's see what this program is doing. We're using a maths function to find the square root of something. Square root of 9 is 3. And what we're doing is we're squaring the value of S1. Now S1 has got the value of 3 here. So S1 squared is 9 plus 16 is 25. If you take the square root of 25, that will give you 5. So the value of height should be 5. Let's see if that's true. Yes, that's working just fine. So that's a simple bit of code to find the hypotenuse. But you may well say, well, I'm going to put that into a function and tuck it away for posterity. Well, we start off by making a function, and we'll call it hypotenuse. It's going to accept 2 arguments. Well, they're going to be double, and I'll call it S1. I really should call it something else. That's a bit naughty, really, calling it S1, but you could call it like X1 or something like this, but I'm taking a bit of a liberty. So I'll call this S2, and then, now what is this function going to return? It's going to return a double, which is the value of 5, which is the hypotenuse, is the answer. So that then I can put my function body. Now, what's the function body going to be? It's actually going to be the stuff here. So I'll drag that into there, but I'm going to, when I call my function, I'm going to say here that hyp is going to be equal to hypotenuse, which is the name of the function. And then I'm going to pass 2 values. I'm going to pass the 3 and the 4 to the function, which will get passed to S1. And then I'm finally going to print out the value of hyp in a cout. Okay, well, there's things going wrong here, so I need to say what this is. It's a double, and also I don't need to initialize these because they will be passed into S1 and S2. Also, what am I going to return? I'm going to return hyp. And if I'm going to return hyp, that should be fine. Okay, can you see what I haven't done yet? Yes, you guessed it. I haven't put my prototype, so I'm going to copy this up to here, paste it in there, and then put a semicolon, remember. Let's see if that builds okay. Well, it does. It succeeded, as we can see. So if I run that, you see I get the answer of 5. Well, you might say, hey, there's no much difference between the previous program, but what I've done, you see, is tuck this away, and I can just forget about it. As long as I know what it does, it's a function which passes the value of 3 and 4 and gives me back the hypotenuse, and then you can just forget all about it. You might even put some commenting in here to say what this does, but that's fine. So you can see the idea of a function. This is the way you ought to program, really. You write your code inside main, and when it's all working nicely, you go and put it into a function, tuck it away, and get yourself organized. Let's talk about default arguments. Default arguments is when you don't pass an argument and you want it to default to a certain number. In this case, it's going to default to 1. Let's see how that works. Let's consider a very basic program. You've seen this before. We've got the name of the function, we pass a value to it, and the value is accepted by I, and you can print out the value, which will be 2. Let's see if that works. Okay, so it prints out the value of 2. Nothing strange there. Then you've got your prototype up here as well, which is the same as that, except it's got a semicolon, and that's the way we normally call functions. It's not returning anything, so we've got a void out the front. Okay, that's just a bit of revision. What about this? Let's try and call our function with nothing here. Well, we'll try and build it. It's going to cause problems because it says here it's complaining about this. So what do we do about it? Well, I'll show you. In here we can specify equals 1 will be the default argument. So that now if I build it, that builds just fine. And now if I don't pass anything, let's see what happens. If I run the program, it's going to produce 1 and 2. I've called the function twice. The first time I called it, it gave me I is equal to 1, and the second time I called it, it gave me I was equal to 2. So that's the idea of a default argument. When you don't pass any argument, then it will accept, it will use the value of 1. Two functions with the same name. Here we've got one function, our old friend Dodo, and let's see if that builds. Looks okay. All it does, it passes the value of 1. This is our usual Dodo function, passes the value of 1, and then we'll print the value. We might as well just run it and just confirm that it actually prints out the value of 1. You notice that it's passing an integer. What happens if we've got a function with the same name but taking a different argument? Like this. So this it's got the same name as Dodo, but it's got a float argument this time. Well, we need to just paste in our prototype here. Don't forget the semicolon, and that should build pretty well. But what we want to do is to call it using a float. So instead of using 1, I'll just use 2. But remember, when we're using floats, it's rather a nuisance that you have to specify that it is a float. Now we build that. And then run it. You see that we've got the values of 1 and 2, which have been input from here and here. So it's intelligent enough to know that which function to call depending on what has been passed. Rather clever. This is a relatively new feature of C++. In the old days when we're dealing with C, this was not possible. And if you looked at Windows, which is written in C++, you'll have a function which is called Dodo, another function which is called wdodo and fdodo and all sorts of things. You'd have to have a different function when you're passing different arguments. What a mess that was. But there you are. That's how to pass the function. Let me just single step that to make sure of what's happening. If we do an F11 at that point there, now watch where it goes. Down to here and passes the value. I'll continue on. I better do an F10 here and then come back. F11. Now when I do an F11 here, bingo, it goes down to this one here and so on.